Hello, Seiiti Arata. There is an old story that a merchant once came home, and he was surprised to see that his house had been looted and burned down by bandits. Everything he had was stolen or burned, and the only concern of the merchant was whether his son was well. Searching everywhere, he found a burnt body, and immediately he began to cry uncontrollably, believing that the body was his son. The merchant didn't know that, in fact, his son was still alive. The boy had been taken prisoner by this group of bandits, and they wanted to sell the boy as a slave in another village. But knowing nothing of this, the merchant had finished cremating the body he found and put the ashes in a velvet bag. And from that day on, he carried the velvet sack everywhere, day and night, always thinking of the son he had lost. Some months passed until the boy managed to escape from the village where he lived already as a slave, and after much difficulty, the boy was able to return to the city where he lived. And in the middle of the night, he found his father's new house and started knocking on the door, happy to finally find his family. And awakened by the noise in the middle of the night, his father was still very sad and carrying the ashes in a velvet bag. He asked, "Who was knocking at the door at night?" And then the boy replied, "It's me, your son." In that moment, the man was furious. "You brat with no respect, stop tormenting me. My son died months ago. I have his ashes here with me. Leave me alone and go away." And the boy insisted in trying to prove that he was the son was alive, but the father was convinced. And he really believed that the son was actually dead, and he was sure that the kid on the other side of the door was just some rude boy who just wanted to torment him. And after much trying, the boy eventually gave up and left, losing his father forever. Do you tell yourself stories that you believe to be true? Let's think about this story for a while. Let's question a few of the truths that we embrace with such blind certainty. Have you ever stopped to think about how many stories you end up taking as absolute truth? What are we failing to notice because of these stories? How many truths do we need to open the door on? If you stop to reflect, the criteria we define to live our own lives are nothing more than stories that we tell ourselves, and from these criteria, we judge both our own conduct and the behavior of others. And these stories can help or hinder us. When stories strengthen us, we gain focus, we gain self-confidence, we get the motivation to live life according to our own ideals. But when the stories hinder us, we are often stuck with completely unnecessary beliefs and limitations and sufferings. And what is worse is that most of us create much more limiting stories than empowering beliefs. There's a way for you to understand that stories may be helping or harming you. In this exercise, you need to be alone for a while to reflect and write. On a piece of paper or even on your computer, you can write down the great truths you truly believe in. Write your truths for the most important areas of your life, your family, relationships, health, and career, finances. If you need, pause before we move on. Are you finished writing? Now read all of these truths with a fresh mindset, and then you realize that these are just stories that you're telling yourself. And if you're like most people, you probably carry within yourself a lot more stories that cause suffering than empowering stories. Take another look at what you wrote. Which of these stories are causing suffering? Is it because you do not have something, like not having achieved a particular goal, or not having the possession of a certain object, or not having the appearance you would like to have, or because your sports team has lost, or because your favorite politician is not in power, or maybe because you didn't end up with the person you wanted, your childhood crush, or because you do not have a particular skill, you don't know how to speak a foreign language, or you don't know how to speak in public or make sales. In all these cases, you're lacking something, and that is the cause that you believe is the cause of your suffering. But there are other cases as well. You can suffer because you have something. Maybe you have a chronic illness. Maybe you have that. Maybe you have family issues. Maybe you have a noisy neighbor. Maybe you have problems with drugs or television, watching excess or playing too much video games. In all these cases, you believe there is something that you possess that you do not want to have, and that is the cause of your suffering. Now let's take a look at this. One of the best ways for you to reduce your suffering in life is to detach yourself from the stories and just face the truth. This is not an easy path to go down. To walk this path, you have to raise your level of awareness. You need to realize there are certain things you take as truth. In reality, they're just stories that you're telling yourself. This attachment to the stories that we take as truth ends up closing our minds. And closing our minds hurts us because we end up finding it harder to learn new things and improve our social skills. In the extreme cases, having attachment to these stories makes us have a closed mind, leading to fanaticism and intolerance. Our stories usually have a certain basis in reality, of course, but this reality is modified by our interpretation, by our desire of how we would like things to be. And to detach yourself from these stories, you need wisdom to identify the boundaries between reality and interpretation. And what are the areas in which you can develop by questioning your old truths? When we cling to false truths, we are close to any questioning. We become incapable of living life as it is, incapable of being in the present moment, incapable of observing reality with clarity and objectivity. Without knowing it, we end up being able to open the doors to the things that we value most in life. Like the merchant who didn't open the doors to his own son because he believed in the story that he had the ashes, and the ashes in the bag were of his son. And this happens a lot more than we would like. We're trapped because of barriers that we build in our own minds, and that is why it is very important to continue developing our clarity, allowing questions and decision-making with reason and wisdom. And if you don't open your mind, you may be imprisoned by just your lack of inquiry and curiosity. We can cause ourselves and others much suffering when we are caught up in stories that we take as truths, when we are enslaved by inconvenient desire without living in the present moment. It is your choice to end this suffering. It is your choice to live consciously and continually develop yourself. Now, if you're interested in personal development, to achieve this type of freedom, you can watch our special lesson on how to achieve improvements in your life, starting with yourself. You can go to arata.se/personal development to continue this conversation.